If I were to ask you to define video game personality, how would you? Is it what makes the game unique, or just what stands out? Does every game have personality? Would you consider the gameplay to encapsulate its personality? Well, I won't actually know how you've answered those until the video is done and I can read the comments, so in the meantime, I'll offer up my own definition. Well, when I hear a game has personality, the definition that comes to mind is unique presentation, usually wacky or out there, that invokes a sense of charm. So yeah, it's a pretty narrow definition. Whether that's because I've got it all wrong or because most games nowadays blend into one, I'll never know. Why do I only attribute presentation as forming a game's personality? Well, I suppose it's because it's the loudest way for a game to stand out. You don't have to play or experience a game to be met with its art style. You immediately interact with it just by looking at an image in passing. But what about Doom Eternal, I hear you say? A game that's standout aspect is its gameplay. Redefining the first-person genre of games, does that not define Doom's personality? Well. What about Ori? It's not wacky or out there, but the visuals are so beautiful and unique. Does that game have personality? Well, I guess remove that part. People are charmed by different things. Is a game having personality completely subjective? Alright, I get it. Clearly my definition needs a little rethink. So, I've selected some games that I feel follow this definition, and some that don't. The goal here is to review what makes these games unique, what leaves an impression, see if any patterns emerge, and at the end try and see what contributes to a video game's personality. The two main things I will look at with each game is what is unique, and what aspects leave an impression on the player, that being me. These two things are a Venn diagram's best friend, as unique aspects may not leave an impact, and things that aren't necessarily unique to that game may have a bigger impact on the player. Be interesting to see what trends we can uncover. First of all, let's start with Doom Eternal, a game most known and highly praised for its gameplay, and how it takes the first-person genre and puts it to shame. The core of Doom's gameplay is movement, weapon switching, and the various ways the game encourages you to do these things. That's why Doom Eternal encourages these things. It's not because it's trying to restrict the player or anything, it's just saying, hey look, if you do these things I want, I guarantee you'll have fun. It accomplishes this with the map design, enemies, and your kit. You've got a double jump, dash, and the meat hook, a grapple attachment for the super shotgun. These serve as movement and allow the player to glide across the map. Each weapon does have an intended use, however they do provide enough flexibility for the player to use them in unconventional ways should they choose to experiment with how they play. The enemies are there to be brutally murdered, but they also serve to encourage weapon switching. Weak points in demons, for example, require the precision of the precision bolt, and some enemies discourage the use of some weapons, for example the carcass. This guy throws shields in your face to punish your over-reliance on the rocket launcher, as you risk hitting the shield and dealing massive self-damage. The mechanics also leave a pretty high skill ceiling, allowing you to get really good, and it's so damn fun. Using new ways to tackle levels and kill demons, playing around with the runes, weapon combos, and the movement, so much fun. And noticing how much better you're getting at the game is so satisfying. But I can't really talk Doom without talking music, because if anything leaves an impact on the player, it's that incredible soundtrack. You've got the blood-pumping heavy metal to complement the arena demon killing for sure, but then you've also got the more ambient synth tracks that play between arenas. These tracks perfectly capture the atmosphere. These usually quite calm tracks really help elevate these locations, and I don't see enough people talking about them. I mean, yeah, the only thing they fear is you is objectively the best song in this game, sue me, but I think we can leave a little bit more room for those ambient tracks. The most commonly criticised aspects of this game are the story and platforming. I feel the platforming works well to break up the fighting, and I don't really mind it. While the story shown to us in cutscenes and during levels could definitely be presented a lot better, the codex entries were a lot of fun to read, but hey, what about them questions? Well, what's unique about Doom Eternal is the music, of course, the presentation, and how it puts a twist on the FPS genre. As for what left an impression, the gameplay and the music. You'll have these things stuck in your mind hours after playing. Up next is Totally Accurate Battle Simulator. Did you really think I wasn't going to talk about this game? I feel like you lot already know where this is going. Tabs is a battle simulator, just in case you didn't know. Incorporating strategic thinking and problem solving. A group of enemies oppose you, and you have to use the assigned budget and units to beat them. There are also community-centered features, which have led to tons of custom units and custom maps that vary in quality. I have talked Tabs half to death, and if it wasn't obvious, I quite like this game. It's fun, challenging, and endlessly replayable. Don't count this as a formal review. I will take a video to review Tabs as a complete package when it fully releases. But what about them questions? The unique parts include the art style, and I think that's it. Maybe the physics? I mean, other games do have wacky physics, but would it be the same? I reckon no, but tabs isn't unique for having them. Maybe the gameplay? It seems to be a sort of spin on RTS type games. Again, I'm fairly sure tabs is one of, if not the first game to play this way. I'm pretty confident in saying that, but I'm worried there's going to be some super niche game that is hiding somewhere that everyone is going to leave in the comments. But I'm still going to add gameplay to the list of unique things. Fight me. Alright, now for that big one. What left an impression on me? The wacky physics and the art style. These two things are quintessentially tabs, and bring with them so much damn charm. I have been waiting so eagerly for the chance to talk about this hidden gem of a PS1 game. MediEvil is an action-adventure hack-and-slash set in the fictional world of Gallowmere, and oh my this game, the combat is satisfying. You just go around chopping things with various weapons that you unlock through killing enemies and finding chalices. The level design is so good and the art style and music really suck you into the world of Gallowmere, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The setup for MediEvil is pretty simple. You play as Sir Daniel Fortescue, a knight of Gallowmere who, when defending said Gallowmere from the evil Lord Zarok, died. On top of that, he was the first one to die. However, due to the fact he was highly favoured by the king, he was labelled a war hero without the truth ever being known to the public. Upon the evil lord's return, Zarok resurrects the dead and accidentally resurrects Dan. So you start your journey to defeat Zarok and prove to yourself that you are a true hero. The story doesn't really take centre stage in this game. You do get the occasional piece of dialogue, but the game just gets on with it. But let's talk about dialogue. The characters you meet mostly reside in the Hall of Heroes, the place where you obtain new weapons, and despite only talking to each hero twice, they are brought to life and given so much character by the voice acting.
Captain Fortescue, it's me, Canny Tim. Does the battle go well?
Each hero is unique and likeable, and then there's the mayor, who is the best character in the game, and I will totally fight anyone who disagrees.
Heck, am I glad to see you. That Zarek tried to force me to hand over the Shadow Artifact. He means to release the demons.
Dan, being a skeleton without a bottom jaw, sounds like he does. The story is pretty unconventional, with it being a journey of proving your self-worth rather than gaining the admiration of others. Anyway, let's talk about the level design, because it's pretty damn good. It mostly involves key hunting, but the way in which the game hides those keys and what it puts you through to get those keys is pretty damn creative, and the layout of each level is also pretty good. Then you get those levels that don't involve key hunting, and those take things to the next level. There's one mission where you must forge a crucifix in order to obtain a necessary item, another where you have to obtain lost souls, and my favourite level in the entire game involves you needing to solve riddles in order to work out what your objective is, before you then go and complete that objective. Need I remind you, this game came out in 1998, 23 years later, and this is apparently the best the industry can offer. The music in this game is amazing, one of the best video game soundtracks I've ever heard. It's nice to listen to on its own, but in-game it's one of the biggest reasons you find yourself so immersed in this game's world. Have fun counting those polygons, I can hear you say, chuckling behind that awful looking remake. Honestly, the art style is held up pretty well. The sharp and angular PS1 models really help add to the fairy tale / gothic horror aesthetic of MediEvil, and when you start playing the game, the art style, music and levels will really pull you in. There are tons of little hidden details in the game to add to the atmosphere, like hands scuttling about the graveyard, rats running around the sleeping village. These little details really help bring Gallowmere to life, and you get so entranced in this game's world. But for as much as I could talk about this game all day, and there is quite a lot I haven't covered, we got some questions to answer. What is unique? Well, the visuals and the music, of course. The gameplay, not so much. It's an unconventional pairing of genres for sure, but nothing that isn't found elsewhere. What left an impression? The level design and the presentation. This game has so much unique charm, with the aesthetic and score that will stick in my mind forever. That does lead us quite nicely into Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori didn't initially seem like my kind of game. I've never been big on Metroidvanias. I tried Hollow Knight but couldn't get into it. But I was willing to give the genre another go with Ori and the Blind Forest, and now all I want to do is absorb any and all Metroidvanias. maybe not that one. From the very beginning, Ori doesn't mess about. While I felt I wasn't completely invested in the game until I unlocked the double jump, I feel the pacing up until that point was still pretty spot on. Ori is a damn good Metroidvania. It gives you new abilities and challenges at just the right pace, and does a really good job of encouraging you to explore, whether that would be to look for ability points, to make sections easier, or just out of curiosity. You'll want to see what's up ahead. The game controls so well, and mastering the abilities you are given is so satisfying. Despite this, a lot of Ori's gameplay is pretty typical of Metroidvanias. While it's executed amazingly and includes some very creative sections, other games do play pretty similarly. Aside from the gameplay, have you seen how beautiful this game looks? The animations are so fluent, the environments are so vibrant and rich with detail, and my goodness, the soundtrack. It perfectly accompanies the action with amazing pieces of music that effectively communicates the emotion of the world and what you're doing. One of the best examples of this being the section where you restore the element of water, where the music quickly and suddenly begins, matching the speed and sudden introduction of the water, alongside the action of the player frantically trying to platform upwards to escape the water. Then this upbeat melody is introduced over the top, representing the hope that the restoration of the water has introduced to the forest, as everything around you comes back to life. This game's presentation is next level, so yeah, I kind of like this game. But fella, you still got them questions? That I do. What is unique? Presentation. This question is starting to get very redundant, but trust me, it'll prove its worth later. What left an impression on me? Well, the look and feel of the world, the music, and just how it gets you invested in what's happening. Not to discredit the gameplay. Like mentioned earlier, this game has some incredibly creative sections, but the presentation of this game is truly amazing. We're hitting all the PS1 classics today. Unlike MediEvil, Crash Bandicoot has become an iconic part of gaming, and its tricky platforming has stood the test of time, even getting a new installment just last year. While I wasn't very hot on the second and third Crash games, I really enjoyed the first one. It's pretty damn hard, and the fact it was my first ever 3D platformer didn't help much either. However, the difficulty just added to my enjoyment. Levels are laid out really well, and the whole game is satisfying as hell to complete. Some levels had me stuck for ages, but completing them comes with a feeling with no equal. This game does border on frustration sometimes, especially if you're going for any of the platinum relics, which you get for completing levels within a certain time limit. These were added in the remakes. Not to flex, but I've got a couple. My original intent was to get all of the platinum relics, but some of these levels are so damn hard I just lost all motivation to do so. As platforming is concerned, this game is great. Most levels are really well designed, with a variety of challenges, with moving platforms, bouncing off boxes, and really tight jumps. As for the art style, it's cartoony and uniquely Crash. However, I rarely noticed it in between smashing my controller and punching holes in my desk. The music I did notice, however, with it being fitting for the setting of each level, and the main theme is probably one of gaming's most iconic pieces of music, and it's not too hard to see why. It's catchy as hell. Alright then, Crash Bandicoot, what is unique? You know what? What left an impression? Well, the difficulty. It pretty much overshadowed everything else for me. Once I learnt the layout of the levels and the way at the jump and all that, it became pretty bearable. But that first playthrough, oh my god. The game that started my obsession with a pretty odd conflict. A game playable on anything with a screen, which isn't a bad thing. If you haven't played this already, do yourself a favour and play it. PvZ, or PvZ as we crumpet-consuming, rain-tolerant, tea-drinking followers of the Queen say it. Long live Her Majesty the Queen of England. May she continue to have a prosperous... Puts a spin on the tower defense genre of games, with the key difference being the defenses obstruct the enemy's objectives, and defenses are literal plants. The objective is plain and simple: defend the house from zombies. The game really shines with these plants, however. Each plant is unique from the last, performing a completely different function. Some act as a direct counter to particular enemies, and some are more multi-purpose. You have to pick and choose what plants to use, as you've got a limited number of slots, so you have to ensure you have the right plants for the job. And some sacrifices will have to be made in order to include the required plants, which may require you to change up your strategy for some levels. Another aspect I appreciate is the character designs. Not only are they pretty stylistic, combining cutesy and dark, but these designs also leave room to communicate their utility. You can probably guess what each plant does based off their design. You can easily tell that this thing probably shoots things, this thing probably eats things, and this thing most likely protects things. The enemies' designs are pretty similar in that respect, with slightly more ambiguity with a couple, but that's still quite good. In between your standard levels, there are unconventional missions that have different objectives. But slightly different objectives. There are different sections to the game that offer up different challenges and different limitations. The OST for Plants vs Zombies is so good. The main theme is another piece of iconic gaming music, and BraniacManiac is one of the best pieces of gaming music ever. Sue me. Alright then, what's unique? Well, the spin it puts on tower defense is pretty unique, and guess what else? Presentation. What left an impression? The art style for sure. Each character design is stylistic and informational. It's pretty good stuff. That brings us to the final game of the video. Superhot Mind Control Delete is the third game in the Superhot series. My experience with these games boils down to, I briefly played the original game in early 2019 and that's about it, so I'm not too sure what's different about this one. What I am sure about is how unique this game is. It's a first-person action puzzle matrix glass people game. When standing still, time moves slowly, but when you move or perform an action, time moves at normal pace. Your objective is to kill everyone in the level. These individuals will have one of a few weapons and you'll have to maneuver around their attacks to take them out. I have never seen gameplay even close to this anywhere else. And the art style. Everything looks like it's made out of glass. It's not all that visually appealing, but it makes for a cool effect. I didn't really understand the message this game was trying to send. I get that you're playing a game inside the game, but the commentary on killing was confusing. Like, is it commenting on bland video games? Is it a self-aware piece? I really don't know. But what's important is the gameplay and how it looks. The premise is simple, and while I may not have a lot to talk about, it's pretty damn fun and hard to put down. What's unique? Everything. What left an impression? Everything. What a journey this has been. It's been quite the experience going through and consciously thinking about what aspects of games stick with me even after I finish playing them. However, let's talk about my findings. Well, the number one thing that left an impression on me was the presentations. However, the presentations being wacky or out there didn't necessarily make me remember it better. I'd actually argue the opposite. Tabs and PVZ do have a distinct and memorable art style, but they are completely eclipsed by Ori and MediEvil. Those games to me had way more memorable presentations, with visuals and music that have cemented themselves in my mind. What also surprised me was there were games defined by gameplay, those being Doom and Crash Bandicoot. Then there's Superhot. The entire damn thing is memorable. What I've learned is the aspect of a game that is most likely going to define it is the visuals and sound, with a minority of games being represented by their gameplay. That may explain why console makers desire higher resolution above all. Making their games look nicer will enforce the visuals to perhaps try and show off what makes the game unique or try and leave a greater impression on people who play it. As another thing I've learned is the only thing unique across all of these games are their presentations. This is hardly scientific. The sample size is small and I'm just some sap with a lot of free time. So the personality of a game is defined in the majority of cases by immersive presentation. But then there are so many games that have gameplay scream louder than visuals, but even then, with games like Doom, the music makes up a lot of the personality as well. And then there's Superhot, and at this point I have no clue what to think. But if we collect all that I have learnt from this experience and try and come up with another definition for what it means for a game to have personality, it would indeed be the personality of a game is defined in the majority of cases by immersive presentation. But then this is the bit where I tell you that games can be whatever you want and you can take from it whatever you want, and so this is just my opinion, so really what's the point of all this? Please like and subscribe. I do hope you were able to take something away from this video, even if it was just entertainment value. But please let me know in the comments, what do you take away from games? What things about games stick in your mind the most? It would be really nice to see what you lot have to say about it. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and goodbye.